Hi, everyone. My name is Shavarius, or I go by Biggs, and I'll be your host today for the second virtual convening of the Student-Centered Learning for Equity Conference. I just want to let you all know I'm very excited to have you guys here. I'm very grateful too. This is going to be an interactive convening, so there's a chat feature I want you all to use throughout the whole experience to really get your thoughts moving, you know what I mean, get your insight in. And I also wanted to add that I know this time is very rough for everybody, students and just, citizens alike, because of all, with COVID affecting the world and all these racial injustices and stuff just attacking us at our homes at this point. I just want to say that I really appreciate you all coming out here and speaking, you know what I mean? Just really adding to the movement. It's important, it's powerful, and I'm very thankful. Thank you. I want to let you guys know that we have a very packed afternoon for y'all. First, we have a student performance, and then we have an introduction from my friends Jackie Statham Allen of the Bush Foundation and Lars Esdell from Education Evolving. They're the planning partners of today's event. So, give them like a shout out or like a hi or something in the chat. Like, oh, hey, thanks, Jackie. Thanks, Lars. Something like that. The first documentary that we'll have is from Youth Lens 360 and Jose Perez. They collaborated and worked together with Youth Lens 360 producing it, and Jose really interviewing these people and getting the insights about how they feel about education in this time of turmoil. Then we'll have a panel of educators to discuss about, what was said at that point, giving their thoughts, answering a few questions. Then we'll have a keynote speaker, Pedro Noguera, talk about, falling kind of forward and student-centered learning and education for the future. You know what I'm saying? Just learning from our failures, pretty much. Really trying to take a positive out of the negative that's going on right now. I think that's very important. We'll have some breakout rooms for you guys from now and May 26th. And then there'll be a closing plenary at 4 p.m. May 27th. So, don't miss that, guys. All right. I'm just letting you know right now. Okay. But with that all being said, I just wanted to say again how really, truly honored I am to be here with all of y'all and to be the host of today's convening. This means a lot for me, being a student and somebody who really just feels it's important to have the student be the focal point of education, because without the student, it wouldn't be education, just doesn't really make any sense. But enough about me. I just want to say that, thank you again. And TT Stone, she's coming up and she's going to say some powerful words to start us off for today. So without further ado, TT Stone.
Rain and thunder. It feels like I'm falling under. Like rain, my head falls. Without a fail, the storm stays. I'm finding ways to understand who am I. What's the frame that made me to be? Who am I? Who will I be? Like a honeybee, I wish to be sweet. But still, I can't seem to be free. Most of the time I feel defeated. Still falling under. Rain and thunder. Teaches me growth, like how the river flows. I wish to reach those who fall victim to pressure. Grab my hand, take a tour through my mind. Nothing compares to the love I have to offer. Like a flower, it grows to a fruitful community. We need unity. Why is it always all about me? There seems to be no us and we. When will we be free? When will my chains fall? When will I know how to feel? Is what I'm feeling real? Rain and thunder. The storm has stopped. The sun now shines bright. Oh, how I have grown. The rain falls to teach me the flows. The flow teaches me growth. Rain and thunder. I seem to rise and fall with the sun. Clouds. My thoughts are so loud. Silence doesn't bring me peace. Rain and thunder. How could I ever fall under? Rain and thunder.
Wow. Thank you, TT, so much for sharing your beautiful words with us today. My name is Jackie Statham Allen, and I'm a grant-making director with the Bush Foundation. We are thrilled and honored to welcome you all here today for our virtual convening at the end of a very exhausting school year. I think we all have lost count of how many virtual meetings and conferences we've attended throughout the past 12 months. And yet, you chose to be with us today and be a part of our virtual community. And for that, we say thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. And I'm Lars Esdahl, Executive Director of Education Evolving. I recognize so many names now scrolling through the chat and the participant list that were with us last year. And it's just stunning to think about everything that has happened since then. It's a lot. And in so many ways, it's really been the most intense 12 months that I can ever remember us having collectively experienced as a world and especially as a region. We realized COVID meant not just a long month or a long spring, but that it would be with us for a year and beyond, fundamentally altering our lives to their core and bringing so much trauma and loss for our communities, families, and students here in our region.
Yeah, that's right, Lars. We experienced the murder of George Floyd during this time. In fact, it was in the midst of breakout sessions of last year's SCL4E convening that we experienced that traumatic and tragic event. And that murder, it sparked an uprising and protests and people leaving and going out into the streets and demanding justice in numbers that were extraordinary all over the country. Also, in the past 12 months, we've seen a rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans. We've seen continued loss of jobs and economic instability. And we know that there are still students that are struggling with the challenges of pandemic learning, whether they're in distance learning or hybrid learning or some sort of adapted in-person learning. And we know that parents and guardians, wow, they really are juggling. They're wearing multiple hats of teacher, caregiver, and employee all at the same time. And there's so many more things. I mean, this past 12 months, it doesn't need to be said, but it's been very tough. Sometimes it's just too much to take in, it's just too much to bear.
And yet, somehow, in the face of all that, in the face of these challenges, it's been humbling and remarkable to see the resiliency, ingenuity, and invention that students, families, communities, educators have embraced. In short, we've embraced student-centered learning over the last year out of necessity.
That's right. Despite the challenges of the past 12 months, we have really seen powerful glimpses of students being put at the center. For example, there have been teachers driving door to door to deliver devices to students so that they could be equipped for online learning, or districts delivering millions of meals at the doorsteps of children and their families. We've heard about counselors making 5, 10, 15, however many calls it took in order to reach out to a student that wasn't showing up for classes. And we've seen parents and families being partners, true partners, in the education of their young people. And also, we've seen learning programs take a shift from lockstep, overly scheduled, teacher-driven programs to instead student-driven models where students decide the pace and the place that works best for them.
And now, when we look out these windows, little rain coming today perhaps, but in general, there has been a warm wind blowing. Jackie and I were just talking about how we're so fortunate to have shots in our arms that are going to allow us to begin to ease back into interactions with family and friends and the things we cherished about life before COVID. Spring is in the air on so many levels right now. And it's also an important point that we just have to be so careful not to breathe a sigh of relief and just close the door on this chapter and move on and go back to normal, because the old normal never was set up to honor, support, and nurture all students. It was consistently perpetuating systemic inequities along lines of race, income, learning differences, geography, and so many other factors. And the central question we need to ask as we move beyond this period, where we've had to pause, where we've had to stop the way we've done things, is how to make this a hard pivot. How can we hold on to the best things we've tried, the best things we've done? And that is the central challenge before us. How can we hold on to the student-centered success stories that Jackie just described? We will likely never, and I sincerely hope never, have such an opportunity again in our lifetimes.
That's right. And as we move forward from this year, let's ask ourselves the question, how do we heal? So how do we not only talk about learning loss, but also celebrate our students for the resiliency and just surviving this challenging period? How do we celebrate our educators for their amazing fortitude, for making what seems impossible actually happen? How do we acknowledge and support and continue the villages of families and community members with their commitment who are able to make all this happen? And can we be conscious of the healing that needs to take place as we take this path forward? Healing not only from a year of trauma, but also healing from a historical legacy of an education system that was never truly meant or designed to honor and serve and love each of our students for who they are, how they learn, and where they want to go.
Which takes us full circle to the theme of our event today, learning from disruption and healing forward. And we're so grateful this year to have, again, an advisory council of fabulous educators and community leaders who have set the vision for this event. And we go to them now as they share what the theme means to them and how student-centered learning is our path to a more equitable future.
Learning from disruption means
understanding our current injustices within our society.
Means strong relationships.
Other ways that we can do things that have always been there, but we didn't notice because there was too much noise around us.
Cultivating a relevant community and honoring flexibility, creativity, and understanding urgency.
The skills you developed through that to work through that noise are the skills that are really going to benefit you far, far down the road.
What we need to hold on in this period
is a recognition that some students have always needed the flexibility that we have afforded to our students through this difficult time.
Honoring each individual identity of our students and being flexible to meet their needs.
What we need to hold on to from this period is the sense of shared experience. This is something that's impacted all of us, which means we all can relate to it in one way or another.
Is the momentum to keep pushing the change forward.
We need to hold on to the lessons learned as we navigate uncharted waters and continue to reflect on what we must do differently to get to where we want to go.
We all created spaces where we felt comfortable and safe, and we must keep all of that we stay working in community.
Looking towards the future,
healing forward means
that we are in a process of becoming healthy.
Acknowledging all of the pain within our society, being uncomfortable, and feeling in order to remember how to heal.
It's important to acknowledge our pain from the pandemic, the toll it has taken on our families and our mental health.
Imagining a different future for our students.
That we see each other, that we truly see each other for who we are.
And to say, I'm willing to move forward, but I'm willing to do it with you. I'm willing to do it together.
Education's role in healing forward
is creating an inclusive community for students and a community where they can understand who they are.
That we must take care of ourselves, then each other as educators. Only then can we fully and genuinely support our students and help them heal.
It looks like leadership. We're all literally working with the future. Our students are the future.
Bringing back humanity into the classroom.
Thank you for being here today, because we have to do this together. We cannot do it on just pronouncements of wisdom. We must roll up our sleeves and keep on going and keep on persevering. So thank you for being here.
Time will heal us in education. It will look differently because we were forced to change in a blink of an eye. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Now, if you could use the chat feature that I've said earlier to actually answer the question yourself that the council did in the video. As we dig a little deeper today, we're going to actually have a documentary, like I said before, from Jose Perez throughout the Youth Lens 360 company. And then what they're going to do is just have an interview type style where the question is, what does healing forward really mean? And how can we use that in the future?
My name is Jose R. Perez. and I'm directing this film in the lens of a 2019 graduate that will never experience high school as we know it now. I think back on my experience with education. Although it was far from perfect, I realized that this is an opportunity to learn, grow, and mold a new path of education. Whether this pandemic continues to exacerbate the existing inequalities in our education system, or be the moment of transformation that students have been deserving of in the most challenging times, education was already not working for all of its students. But with this immense opportunity to make it finally function for all of our students, how can we learn from these failures and begin to fail forward? What is the process of recovery within civil unrest? This is the documentation of our journalism journey for those answers. Well, can we just start off with your name and where you're from?
Hi, I'm Naraja and I'm from North Minneapolis.
My name is Jenna Maker. I am a senior at Northern Cass High School and I've been here since 5th grade.
My name is Anaya Beasley and I'm a senior.
My name is Nakaya Hodges. I'm in the 12th grade.
Alasia, I want to thank you for taking some time to be a part of this project.
You're welcome.
My name is Laquarius Gilmer and I'm in the 12th grade.
If you had an opportunity to design high school any way that you could imagine from how you experience it or how you wish you have experienced it, what's a few things that would be concrete that a student or the next generation would experience in your type of high school?
From my imagination, I feel schools should be more concerned about mental health and physical health. Mainly mental health because a lot of teenagers, and since the pandemic has started or before, the suicide rates have been going higher and higher, and it's kind of crazy and sad.
Absolutely. And how can schools help with mental health and make, especially students of color, because they definitely are overlooked in the system, how can we more cater to them regarding mental health or regarding barriers that they're facing?
My idea is to have people who struggle with depression or anxiety or drug abuse or drinking come into the schools and talk about their experience and how it felt to go through certain things and rehab and struggles and quitting. So,
getting more teachers of color, teachers that could connect with us more, getting them in the building and everything. I don't know, just more diversity is needed.
You excited to graduate?
Yes, I am. Very excited.
Even in the middle of a pandemic, you did it.
Yes, I'm very proud.
Very proud too. This is a really exciting moment. It's great to see. How might we begin to start fixing the education system to help serve all kinds of students?
I feel like cultural backgrounds is a big thing, because like when you step through the doors at school, you gotta strip cultural background and you gotta just be like a normal person. And I don't think that's what we are. Everybody's different, so I feel like we should have more cultural things for people so everybody can feel more comfortable. And I feel like we should have more teachers of color for kids to feel more connected to their teachers because they come from the same background. And I feel like we should just, be more open-minded towards other people.
Get the shy kids out their comfort zone, like communicate with every kid except for the kids that are more like talkative and like just, I'll say like connect with kids, like have us do stuff together more, more projects together, stuff like that, not more independent work. Because a lot of kids are like independent by themselves, like they're good at that, but sometimes they want that motivation to be together.
I imagine school to be a happy place, a place where people and kids really want to go, a place where kids learn what they want to learn and not necessarily what they have to learn.
We want to hear from our students and have them be part of the school design, of the decisions of the school. That's one of the things. We are trying to reimagine what the space looks like. How are we being flexible in that space? We think a lot about time and how do we move away from some of the structures of a period schedule, and how do we move towards a school and a community where youth are learning by doing things. Youth are engaged in solving community problems, in getting those real world experiences that we're building up their toolbox of skills and rethinking a goal of high school.
And that's pretty profound, allowing students to kind of take the utensils and fail forward.
Yeah.
Schools have values. They teach values, and we need to acknowledge that that's a reality. And so it's only right that the people who are learning and taking in those values have a process and a say-so in what those values are, and not only their values, but also what content's being learned.
What do you think? What do you personally think educators could do to bridge the gap between opportunity youth, students disengaged, into a flourishing education?
I honestly believe that the only way that we can really fight for equity in our education system is to really build relationships. The truth is that we have a system that tries so desperately hard to fit its people to the system. Whereas if we were thinking about fitting our system to the people and giving them resources that way, I think we could really do just so much more. The truth is that success and excellence does not look the same for everybody. There's so much that you can't just get on paper.
And what does student-centered learning kind of mean or look like for you personally?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, for me personally, student-centered learning just means that I have a mentor, not an instructor. So an instructor tells you what to do. A mentor will give you the tools to do what you need to do.
And we're really at the ground zero here with the civil unrest over here in Minneapolis. How has the murder of George Floyd impacted your education?
I wouldn't say it impacted my education. I say it probably made me change the look on the world. Probably be 3 steps ahead. Probably don't get me in no trouble to be in that situation.
It hurt, but we pushed through, and teachers is there for us, so they help us with it. They talk to us about it, we talk about it in class of what's going on in the world.
I think it's a little bit more personal, especially for students in Minnesota, especially when you hear about those streets, you see those blocks, and you know people that were there or are connected to that scene in some type of way or shape or form.
Yeah, it seeing from our beautiful streets, Broadway, being broken down, touring to the next day, it's just destroyed, dirty. It's not a good sight.
For any educator watching this that may not walk the same path as you or experience life in your lens, what is some advice that you would give to leaders that are not of color that directly impact students of color, especially during these times of civil unrest? What are a few words and suggestions for those educators?
Well, there's a lot of energy around dismantling the education system, and by no means I agree with that. We have to dismantle the system, but in order to dismantle the system, you have to acknowledge that we are part of the system. And so any advice I can give an educator is really to take that big mirror, not the small pocket mirror, take that big mirror out, look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself that main question when you leave every single day: how have you upheld white supremacy? And then what are you going to do about it?
After talking to all these amazing students and educators, I realized that we have an opportunity as society is at its most vulnerable state post-pandemic, after civil unrest. We have an opportunity here to learn from our failures and learn from the lessons within them. And that's what this journalism journey is about. Not steering away from failures and demonizing them, but to fail forward and to innovate education so that it best prepares our students for the world outside of classroom walls and Zoom meetings.
That was fantastic. Huge thanks again to Jose and the Youth Lens 360 crew, Solon, Dante, Brandon. I can really tell watching that the students felt comfortable talking with you all, felt comfortable talking with other youth about their experiences. And at this event, as you can see, we're prioritizing elevating the voices of youth. And we want to do one more thing along those lines, which is to hear directly from students their answer to a question we pose, which is how can adults build relationships with students? It's a theme that has come up again and again, especially in this COVID era, as more critically important than ever. And to answer this question, to get students' insights on this question, we partner with the youth-led nonprofit organization Bridgemakers to host a crowdsourced video competition. So we received submissions from all over the region and created a 5-minute clip of some of the winners and runners up from the student responses. So we're gonna play the video in a minute here. And as you listen to students, we ask you to reflect on a question. Based on what you hear from the students, what is something you could see yourself acting on in your own work? And it is also my honor to welcome to our virtual stage here a distinguished group of panelists who will share their thoughts on that question. So we'll play the video of students, and then we're gonna transition to adult reactions. And I'll be back to welcome and introduce the panel in 5 minutes.
If you want to build a connection with us students, you have to be willing to live in our reality and see what our environment is like outside of school. If a teacher took the time out their day to meet my mother and my sister and them, it shows them like they really care about me and that they're willing to see where I come from.
Adults within schools can seek to build further relationships with students as well as student leadership by acknowledging the challenges we face, as well as by directly investing into student leadership that is already growing today.
Equity can be shown in academics area, offering extra help, or it can also be having an understanding mind and allowing students to take a break if social problems or family problems are having effect on them.
Teachers and educators, if you want to build stronger relationships with your student and encourage student leadership, here's how to do so.
Statistics show that nonverbal communication is the most used communication, which means that teachers are going to have to learn how to identify and use nonverbal communication.
So some of the things that my teachers do to make us be able to trust them with our education and to build better relationships with them was, first, they treated us with the same respect that they want us to treat them with.
One of the biggest mistakes I've seen is asking students what they need support with and not following through after. Anybody, especially with an IP or 504 plan, knows what I mean. There's a lot of conversation about what you need, but when it comes down to adapting to it, your input's set aside, shut down, and you're left with really limited, useless options that weren't made for you.
In order to build that strong relationship, the student and the teacher has both had to put in energy and be willing to build that relationship. Throw some courage and some motivation in there and some sauce and whip it up. It's going to be smooth.
Really, the sense of community in schools, I think, really matters. So the student can feel comfortable enough to speak up with whatever they need.
If you're a really good listener and you really ask your students, how was your day, beyond just are you okay or not, then the student really feels like, oh, she really cares about my day, and she's really listening to me instead of just giving me advice, and advice is just listen to my perspective or view.
And encouraging student leaders is pushing those students that want to make change in those spaces where they can and will be heard.
I think that if teachers were better able to connect with students on a more personal level, like one-on-one, two-on-one, three-on-one, whatever, not such big groups, and they had conversations on more of a personal level, it would be good, because then students and teachers could bond.
The best adults or teachers in schools are the ones who are understanding and really take the time to make you feel heard, because then I feel like that established trust, because you don't open up to people who you don't trust.
I feel the best way to improve or to create a bond with the students is to get a better understanding on the students and know that every student is not the same.
Giving students leadership is very important because we are the face of our future.
I've noticed that the teachers that I've had relationships with the best, I've done better in their class. My mental health has been better. And when they give me a lot of work and when I receive lots of work to do, I'm less stressed because I know I can rely on them.
So I think that just being able to make the change, to stay open-minded to the young people who want to change the world as they know it, is a great way to encourage them to take a change and be the leader you know they can be.
Ask us more about our outside life and ask us about how we're doing. We just need somebody to talk to.
You never know what the kid is going through, so you might feel like he got attention towards you, but it might be something at home.
When a student has an idea, you support. No matter how crazy it is, no matter how crazy the idea is, you support, no matter what. Because that shows leadership in creative thinking and ideas, Like, you're letting the student know it's okay to think outside the box. And that's how you create a leader.
So welcome everyone. We are delighted to have you here. Done a little bit of, I guess, should we start with intros?
Pedro Noguera. I'm currently the Dean at the School of Education at USC.
I'm Sarah Garten. I'm a high school social studies teacher. And sorry, I was coming from a meeting talking about next year.
Corey Steiner, I'm the superintendent for the Northern Cass School District.
And Brian Lozinski, I'm a professor of urban multicultural education at Macalester College, also a founding member of Education for Liberation Minnesota.
So, based on what you heard, what is something you could see yourself acting on in your own work? And why don't we just go alphabetical here for your initial responses to that? Brian, you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah, I heard quite a lot. There's a lot to respond to there. I think one of the important things for me is I think what I'm really hearing is a critique of a kind of educational environment where connection and relationship is deprioritized. And so I'm thinking about, in my own work, which is both in teacher education, but also in thinking about redesigning and creating liberatory, educational environments. What does it mean to not have to detach the relationship building and the connection and the support and understanding the context of students' lives and kids' lives from the very, from the academic engagement, right? And so it's not the relationship in order to get them to do something. The relationship is part and parcel of that structure. And so for me, acting on that, how do we create infrastructures and environments that doesn't separate the relationship from the actual engagement with content, cognitive processes, thinking, all of those things. And so that's part of what I was hearing in some of the sharings. So.
That's great. Corey, what did that bring to mind for you?
Yeah, again, a really powerful video. When I heard it, I think the first word that jumped out to me is one of the first learners who said they're looking for people to invest in them. And I think that's something that maybe we've lost focus of a little bit in the last year, is how important it is to invest. And that's not just time, but that's also love, it's compassion, it's grace, it's being flexible and patient. And I think we have to kind of come back a little bit and think about like why we got our first teaching job, when we sat in that interview and we told people, here's why I'm going to be a great educator. I think we may have lost our focus on that a little bit when we've gotten caught up in content and academics and preparing kids for a world beyond our schools, that the best way to prepare them is to model and interact and teach them to be just a great human being. Because if we create great human beings, that creates a great society, and a great society creates a great, caring, loving world. So to me, it's acting on helping my people understand that we've got to take time, slow down, and invest in our young people in all the right ways.
That's great. Pedro, what do you think?
I heard a lot about listening, the need to listen, the need to take them seriously, to respect what they have to tell us. And, I've often said that you can learn so much about schools if you just listen to kids. They'll tell you where they're learning. They'll tell you where they're not learning. They'll tell you where they're safe. They tell you where they're afraid. Listening is a resource, but it takes courage to listen to kids. Because once you listen, you also accept some responsibility for doing something about what you're hearing. But that's what I'm hearing from these young people, a real desire to form authentic relationships with adults that are based in respect and two-way communication. And I think that's a critical need in many schools today.
Sarah?
Yeah, I'm thinking about how to actually do this in the classroom. And so right away, thinking about those things that I've been doing in distance learning that I can still keep doing when we move back in person. So like I started doing home visits with some of my students just to see them and, socially distance, be able to connect, and just right away that living in our own, living in our reality, seeing like our shared environment, right? Like I want to be there for students in the ways that I've been trying to this year, and to continue the sort of social emotional work that we've been doing of just giving that slow down time to connect.
Yeah, I think that is, that's an example of the sort of questions we're hoping to grapple with throughout this event is what do we hold on to? And I think you gave a couple of specific examples there that are great. So Brian, to come back to you for a second, you mentioned part of your work is with future teachers. What do you think future teachers most need to hear in that? Like if you put on your teacher preparation hat, what do you hope to pass on to teachers?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what other folks are saying here. One of the important things that I think these young people are asking for is a partnership in looking at education as a partnership, that we're in this thing together, not that I'm delivering some kind of service to you, that I'm embedding, imparting some kind of knowledge onto you this in this very uneven way. It's that we are in a co-constructed, co-created environment that depends on that relationship to be strong and solid. Otherwise, whatever it is that we're trying to engage in, it starts to become futile. And so, for me, that would be something that I would impart on practicing future educators, to be able to say, how do we engage in this thing on equal footing, where your interests, your desires, and your ideas have just as much prioritization as my interests, my desires, my ideas. And that, again, I completely agree with Pedro, that takes humility, takes you to take a step back and actually be in a space where you can listen and figure out what that looks like for every single child.
Yes, and kind of something you said, Sarah, just coming from a meeting where you were planning to go back to school next fall and planning for what it looks like coming back. What do you think is going to be some of the hardest things to hold on? Like where have you been able to act on some of what you heard students say that's going to be hard to hold on to going back to a more normal-ish, potentially, sort of year next year?
Maybe I'm just overly optimistic. I'm not feeling super like it won't be possible. I mean, I just know that building relationships takes time. And so I'm thinking about those students who I just met this year. And even though I've known them since September, I've maybe there are some that I haven't seen their face because we don't even have a picture in our attendance count, right? So yeah, I know that it sounds easy to be like, yeah, we'll just talk and listen and sit in circle. But I know it's going to take a long time to really build that trust.
Corey, how about you are unique in that you're a superintendent, you're an administrator. You create environments where, or you work at the sort of one step removed from the classroom or from working directly with students or teacher educators. What can you do on that administrator superintendent level to foster environments where those sort of relationships are created?
That's a great question. I think there's a couple of things I would say. One, as a leader in a building, and that doesn't have to be the title of a superintendent or principal. Anybody can be a leader in a building. It's to be vulnerable and model that. I mean, there's like a pedestal teachers are supposed to be on, and they're fearful of somebody saying, "I don't know the answer. I'm not sure how to do that." We've got to model vulnerability from the top all the way down to the bottom, so our kids can see it from our leaders and our educators can see it from our leaders. So that's one of the things I think I can do. And then I think the other place is to create a space where you empower your educators to be the leaders in the building. Let them make choices. Give them the resources they need. I mean, we preach and preach. Let's create a culture of yes instead of, well, I'll get back to you and then a no. Create a culture of yes. So if they know, hey, I'm going to try something, it's going to be really crazy and it might be a disaster, say, absolutely, go do it. Let's see how that works out. And if it doesn't work out, we'll figure out a way to try to do it better the next time. So create a culture that respects the idea that these are trained professionals who know kids and understand how to do their job at an exceptional manner.
So Pedro, you're national. You're coming to us from outside of our region, and is there anything you've seen in other places that really excites you, that you've seen regional or more local strategies that have really excited you as ways to address some of what these students have put before us?
Yeah, and Sarah alluded to it, and it's about trust. And that's about a culture, as you just said, Corey. You have to create an environment, a culture of trust. If students trust you, they're going to let you know something about them. They'll let you know what's happening in their lives. They'll let you know when they don't understand. They'll let you know when they're going through difficulty. The same is true of the staff. If they trust you, they'll let you know when they are struggling themselves. And so it's trust can't be imposed. It has to be earned, but it's a vital resource. And when you look at the schools that make a difference, the schools that are able to serve all kinds of kids, usually what distinguishes them is trust permeates the environment. And so they can have those honest conversations. They can really get to know each other. And the more we know about the kids we serve, the more we'll know about how to serve them. It's because we're not relying on stereotypes. We're really getting to know who they are as people. So trust, I would say, is the critical resource.
That's great. And I think that word trust appeared. If you could create a word cloud from those student responses, that may have been one of the larger words that we heard the students express. So what other thoughts does anyone want to share that haven't already?
Yeah, can I just say that when we're talking about structures that empower teacher voice, I'm thinking a lot about the ways that the pandemic has kind of bust open some of the structures and the ways that we've worked before. And so, for example, there are charter schools in the Twin Cities that are unionizing right now, right? And so that's like a different kind of teacher voice. And I heard the students really like demanding leadership where they would actually be able to impact change. And so like at my school, students have asked to have seats on our board. And so it's just those actual structural changes where voice and change can happen. And I'm going to be starting to teach a class next year where students are going to do youth participatory action research about the school community, right? And then to be able to make recommendations. So just to think about those ways to change the system so that we can build those relationships.
Yeah, that's everything takes place within a structure. And if you're fighting the structure rather than the structure helping to facilitate your goals. I think, yeah, it's going to be an uphill battle. That's a really good point.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in on that, Sarah. I just today got my first 2 applications for our first ever student board member that we're starting next year, and was so excited to see them, and they are so professional in how they did it, because we figured it's time to give them a voice at the table, because it's their school, it's not ours. And that's one thing I think we as adults need to do a better job of, is just giving over that power to our learners to start making decisions about their learning. So I'm excited. We've taught a social emotional learning class the last 2 years. They actually then, those learners train our whole staff in the circle process, and they go around and train kids from our pre-K all the way up to our seniors. It's been one of the most powerful moments. They do a debrief for an hour the last day of school, and I sit in there and we just weep because they've figured out who they are and who they want to become. And I can't figure out, how do we replicate that safe space where kids are able to engage in that self-discovery during a regular school day.
I completely agree with the conversation around structure, because we actually have to ask the question of what gets in the way of trust, both historically and today. But, I do think getting rid of the assumption that just because a school sits in a community, that school is of that particular community. If the walls of the school end up being barriers to the community. And so who are the community educators? Who are the people who have already developed those relationships? Who young people trust already? And how do we learn from them? How do we make them part of the school community in ways that really, make the walls of the school not barriers, but really like fluid, and sometimes we position young people, as though we keep saying, do this so that you can do this in the future, but we have to make the present more of a central focus, right? These young people are not citizens in waiting. They're not leaders in waiting. They are actually engaged in the world, and the world is spinning around them with so much stimulation and so much intensity that if we're not paying attention to those very factors in every single aspect of education, it's going to become irrelevant. And that's also something I hear in that, in what the students were sharing when they say, know my world, right? What's going on in my world? What's going on outside these walls of the school building? And that has to also be inside the walls of the school building so that there's fluidity across that space.
And I would just remind us that even as important as structure is, culture is even more important, right? The culture of the school, the culture of the environment. That's where beliefs and attitudes and expectations and relationships live. And, again, what separates the best schools from the others is the culture. The morale of the staff is the culture of the school. Whether or not you see people helping each other, collaborating, that's all about culture. Whether or not you see divisions and conflict, that's also about culture. So I really want to encourage the educators who are listening, when you hear those young people talking about their experience of what they want, are you willing to create a culture in your school where student voice is a part of the environment, is embraced? Because as several of the other panelists have said, you can't do it without the kids. This is about them, and we need to respect them enough to listen and to engage them so that we can create schools that are far more powerful than the schools we've known.
That's great. And the two are not in isolation. Structurally, there's a student has a seat on the board, or whether teachers are part of the decision-making leadership structure. And I think the two are intimately interconnected too, and sometimes cyclically connected. All right, well, we are at time. I know this is quick.
Thanks for your work on this, Lars.
Well, that did go quickly. Well, I just want to say a huge thank you to our entire panel, Brian, Corey, Dr. Pedro Noguera, and Corey, and Sarah, thank you so much for giving us a lot to think about. Well, now it's your turn, audience. We want to hear from you. So our question to you is, what is the one thing you heard from students that you could see yourself acting on in your own work? And this question is for everyone, not just educators. What can you see yourself doing in your work that can support students, similar to what we just heard from the panel? We are going to open up optional breakout rooms. I don't want any of the introverts to go running away. These will be optional. So optional breakout room in just about a minute. And so you should see an option that's going to pop up on your screen shortly. And if you prefer to stay in the main room, just click the button that says not now, and you'll be invited to just stay here in the main room. But we're going to spend about 8 minutes in breakout rooms. And if you choose to go into a breakout room, and I hope that you do in order to connect with others, we're going to ask you to do two things. So first, introduce yourself, and then answer that question again. What is one thing you heard from the students that you could see yourself acting on in your own work? And don't worry, that question will also appear in the breakout rooms once you get there. We are also going to do a Menti. A Menti is something that creates a word cloud during this exercise. So that should go into the chat, I think just about now. One of my colleagues will put that in the chat. It's a site called Menti. And what we'd like for you to do is, as you're answering that question, think of a word or a very short phrase that describes your answer. And here in the main room, we will see that word cloud build with the thoughts that you all are sharing. So the directions again, breakout rooms are happening soon. If you want to stay here in the main room, click not now. If you want to go into a breakout room, then go ahead and press OK. We have about 8 minutes. And so see you all back in about 8 minutes. All right, to those of you who are in the main room, the breakout sessions will be closing in about a minute. But I'm just looking at this word cloud build. Not surprising of seeing which words are really sticking out here. We have relationships, listen, trust. I think all those things are so very much connected. I should have brought my glasses. Let's see. I also see culture, time. Oh my goodness, absolutely. Following through. Yeah, that really struck me too when the student said, when students share something, also that a big part of supporting students is then following through. Time. I think we all want more time. Absolutely. Thank you all for being a part of this, of building this word cloud. The folks from the breakout rooms are going to join back very shortly. Oh, I see folks are arriving back. All right. So all of you who have joined back from the breakout rooms, welcome back. I hope that the time that you had there, that was a nice time for connection, that you met some new people and had some time to reflect together. And for those of you who stayed in the main room, I hope that you enjoyed. I certainly did enjoy seeing that cloud build. So thank you all, and thank you to our students as well. All right, so we're ready for one of the final things of our convening today. And I am happy to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Pedro Noguera. So Dr. Pedro Noguera is the Dean of the Rossier School of Education and a Distinguished Professor of Education at the University of Southern California. Prior to joining USC, Dr. Noguera served as a Distinguished Professor of Education at the Graduate School of Education and Information Studies at UCLA. And before that, he served as a tenured professor and holder of endowed chairs at both New York University, Harvard University, and the University of California at Berkeley. He is the author of 15 books. His most recent books are A Search for Common Ground, Conversations about the Toughest Questions in K-12 Education, and also City Schools and the American Dream, Still Pursuing the Dream. We are so humbled that Dr. Noguera accepted our invitation to join our community today. You all were able to hear a bit from him as part of the panel, but now we are in for a true treat as he gives a keynote address. So Dr. Nogueira, I am passing the mic to you.
Thanks, Jackie. Appreciate the introduction, and it's great to be here with all of you, thinking about how we can use the reopening of schools as an opportunity to do things differently and better for kids, and focus on equity in our work. I want to start just by pointing out why we need to approach this differently. And as we all know, schools have been characterized by deep and persistent disparities in achievement that correspond to race and socioeconomic status for many years. Despite all the efforts of No Child Left Behind, there's not been that much change. We also know that in many of our schools, it's the kids with the greatest needs that tend to get the greatest amount of discipline. These are often kids of color, often kids with special needs. Too many of our schools have had a narrow focus on achievement at the expense of really getting kids excited about learning and addressing all their needs, their social, their emotional, the physical needs. We relied on pressure as a strategy to improve, not just on schools, but on educators and on kids. And pressure has not worked. And we have ignored the need to improve school culture, to create environments where teachers have great morale and where kids are excited about learning. So this is a chance to start to move in a different direction. And as this diagram shows, equity, when we place at the center of our work, reminds us that kids come to us with different needs, and that if you don't address those needs, you will invariably leave some kids behind, usually the kids who come with the greatest disadvantages. As this other chart reminds us, the kids with the greatest privileges, who come from families with more money, with more support, tend to do better. And in many of our schools, it's easier to serve those kids. But education is designed to serve all kids, not just those who are easiest to serve. And so real equity work is about eliminating the barriers that get in the way of learning. So I want you to think about that for a moment. What are the typical barriers? Well, in my work throughout the country, the most common barrier I've ever seen is complacency and its twin, indifference. And very often that comes from the tendency to blame the kids, or by extension their parents, when we don't see improvement. And blame, as we know, is not a strategy for making a difference. But if you've seen the same patterns in place for a long time, after a while, you start to believe something is wrong with the kids. There's also a related problem of bias. Bias, whether it be implicit or explicit, that results in lowered expectations and often weak and strained relationships between teachers and students. Students know when we care about them, and they respond when not only do teachers challenge them, but show that they're really invested in seeing them learn. Sometimes demonstrations of pity instead of empathy can be a barrier. Pity results, again, in lowered expectations. Empathy is about understanding the challenges our kids face and responding with support. The tendency to see teaching and learning as disconnected. Teaching is something I do, learning is something as they do in response, often results in a disconnect. Think about the teachers that got you to learn something in the past that you were previously no good at or thought you hated. What did that teacher do to change your attitude about the subject, to make you feel comfortable and confident about learning? For me, it was 8th grade math. I was taking algebra. And fortunately for me, I had Mrs. Harris, who on the first day of class told us, she said, "I'm the best teacher in the school. You kids are lucky." For her, that meant she could teach all kinds of kids. Then she asked, "How many of you don't like math? How many of you struggle in math?" And I raised my hand. She said, "You kids are going to sit in the front because I'm going to be checking on you all the time to make sure that you're with me." Because Mrs. Harris focused on the evidence of learning. She was not simply covering the material. And if we didn't understand something, she invited our questions. She looked at our work. She retaught when necessary. She demanded, she was what you call a warm demander, demanded that we be engaged. I often thought part of her secret was that she wore a lot of perfume. I hated the smell of her perfume, but if I didn't pay attention, I ended up smelling just like Miss Harris after a while. So who are your teachers that know how to connect kids, get them engaged, get them to believe in themselves? Those are the teachers we've got to learn from. A punitive mindset about grading, not providing sufficient feedback to kids, that can get in the way of equity. The real teaching comes from the feedback, from the modeling, from the guidance we give, helping the students who are struggling to understand what to do to improve. Not recognizing that some kids need more support outside of school. Many of our highest achieving kids get that support from their parents or from private tutors. More kids need external support if they're going to meet the standards. And then finally, ignoring the unmet needs of children is another barrier that we need to be aware of. Because when you ignore those needs, invariably the kids with the greatest needs are the kids who do the least well. So when we make the pursuit of equity central, we are basically, first of all, starting by getting to know our kids. That means getting to know how they learn, what they care about, what interests them, what excites them. Because the more we know about our students, the more we'll know about how to meet their needs. It's about acknowledging and addressing differences among our students. I often say that anybody with more than one child at home is already practicing equity with your own kids, because you know they have different temperament, different personality. Well, that's certainly true in school as well. So again, knowing our kids, acknowledging their needs and differences is critical. Responding holistically to the academic, the social, and the psychological needs of our kids, particularly the needs that have become more salient since the pandemic and as inequality in our society rises. That's a critical part of equity work. And then being committed to fairness in how we treat kids. Kids know if you have favorites, they know if you don't like them. When kids know that we are fair, that we are just, and we will speak out when we see injustice, then they're much more likely to respond to us. So all of this requires us that we become better at reflecting on our work, reflecting on our schools. So think about your school right now. As you prepare to return for next year, what are the challenges that your school, your district must address? Who are the kids that were thriving and who are the kids that were not thriving? How are we going to make school better for them? And are there some high leverage strategies that we can use that would help to improve student outcomes? High leverage strategies are strategies that we all embrace together. You know, reading and writing across the curriculum is one strategy like that, because it reinforces literacy across the subject matter. But it could also be something, you know, like incorporating play into the classroom or music into the classroom. Ultimately, what we want is schools be a place where a child's race and socioeconomic background does not predict how well they will do in school. That's how we know we're succeeding. When you look at a classroom and you can't tell if this was a gifted class or a special ed class, because it's not the demographics of the kids that's driving outcomes, it's the learning opportunities. We want schools to be places where the culture and language of children are treated as assets and resources that are valued, not negated through assimilation. We want schools to be places where kids are inspired, where their curiosity is tapped and encouraged, and their dreams are fed. Should be that kids are excited about coming to school. How often at the end of the day, the kids tell you, wow, what a day, that was awesome. That should happen often. And finally, schools need to be places where teachers feel appreciated, so they're able to bring joy and passion and inspiration to their work. It all goes together. When it all comes together, then learning is more meaningful, it's more active, and it's more relevant. And why that's important is because that's the way our kids learn. They learn by doing, they learn by questioning, they learn through interaction, they learn through mistakes. They learn through relationships, not only with the teachers, but also with their peers. And so we need to work on making sure that there are positive relationships in our classrooms. We need to make sure that we stay attuned to the whole child focus in our schools, the social, the emotional, the physical needs, as well as the academic and the intellectual. We want to make learning collaborative, and we want to develop the higher order thinking skills in our kids so that they're challenged to think deeply, to question things, to think critically. Because when we do this, not only are we pushing them to achieve at higher levels, but we're doing the things that are preparing them for college and careers. And ultimately, we want learning to encourage the development of mastery so that kids are ready for the next grade. They're ready for more challenging material because they have a solid foundation. And when we do these things, then we know we're prepared to make a difference. To get there, we're gonna have to build the capacity of our staff, because the skills of the staff have to match the needs of the kids. That means that professional development has to be tailored to meet their needs, and we're gonna have to work to build partnerships with community organizations, with local universities, with clinics, so that we can address the other needs that kids bring. And central office is going to need to be collaborative, so that they are working with school sites to address the challenges that schools face and not simply scrutinizing and judging. And the areas we can be sure capacity building will be needed is maintaining that whole child focus so that teachers don't ignore the non-academic needs of kids, building cultural competence so that our teachers can work with all kinds of kids, not just those who have the same backgrounds, and working to empower kids as learners. When we can do those things, we're going to see our schools improve on a sustained basis. I want to conclude with this quote from Hugh Vasquez. Hugh is a program officer with the National Equity Project. And he writes this about the pandemic. He says, since we know that disturbance is required for change, and there's no doubt that disturbance is happening as we speak, the question is, are we willing to use this as an opportunity to create the kind of educational system we want? We have learned that if we are going to change the system, we as individuals first have to see what the system is producing. Then we have to engage with others to design something different. And finally, we have to act. Please note, our schools were designed to get the results they've been getting. If we want different results, we're gonna have to know where change is needed. I wanna encourage you to think about where change is needed so that we can create schools where not only are kids excited about learning, but adults are excited about teaching. At the end of my presentation, I have a list of resources, particularly related to addressing mental health of kids, but also addressing the heightened awareness about racial injustice in our society. It's been a pleasure being with you. I want you to always remember that the future of our nation will be based on the kinds of schools we create. We have the ability right now to ensure that all kids get an education that prepares them for the uncertainties of the future. This is an exciting opportunity. Let's seize it.
All right, thanks, Pedro. That was really amazing. I just wanted to say that eliminating the barriers really stood out to me because typically people try to live with the barriers instead of destroying them altogether. So yeah, that just really stood out. Now, I just want to say, before we come to an official close with our event, we have, due to popular demand, a student performance from Annie Mua. Breakout sessions, which will take place during 9 blocks. 3 tomorrow, May 19th, 3 next week on Tuesday, May 25th, and 3 on Wednesday, May 26th. The time of the breakouts is shown here, and be sure to check out the full schedule at www.scl4e.org/schedule. 2 of the breakout session slots, 2:30 p.m. on May 19th and May 25th, as I've circled here, are special slots dedicated to virtual school tours. We've worked with the teams at El Calijo Northern Cass High School for Recording Arts, Asio Hmong Program, and Spring Grove to create amazing virtual school tour videos, which we'll show during these sessions, followed by a roundtable Q&A. Be sure to check these out. To manage breakout sessions, signups, and post Zoom links for the sessions, we're using a platform called Sketch. You all should have received a reminder email on Sunday evening asking you to build your schedule. It'll look like this on the slide shown to you right now if you haven't signed up yet. Try searching your email for Sketch or looking for an email that arrived around 5 p.m. on Sunday. It'll probably be there. Finally, last but absolutely not least, please make sure to mark your calendar for our closing plenary together next week at 4 p.m. on Thursday, May 19th. We'll hear a keynote from Zitkana Duda Win, focused on healing forward as we proceed this year of disruption, a student panel, and a student musical performance. You won't want to miss it. As you can see, we've got a lot in store for the next week and a half. But don't worry, it's definitely worth it, guys. We can't wait to see more of y'all. We're almost done for today, but before we sign off officially, we have a special treat for all y'all, which I said before. Annie Mua, who opened up for us last year, is back by popular demand. Please join me in welcoming Annie, who'll close us out. This is Gas.
When are we gonna change? We got people marching in these streets, loved ones are dying because of all the damn heart-wrenching inequity. What am I gonna do to convince you that I'm standing in solidarity, fighting this white system with you? We're no different, we're the same. No, we're not friends, and I may not know your name, but we gon' make a home, home, home for everyone. Yeah, we gon' make a home, home, home for everyone. We gon' need some love, and this sad war we still haven't won. We ain't bulletproof, yeah, but you got me and I got you. We gon' need some trust in all of us, that I'm standing in solidarity, fighting this white system with you. We're no different, we're the same. No, we're not friends, and I may not know your name, but we gon' make a home, home, home for everyone. Yeah, we gon' make a home, home, home for everyone. Oh, we gon' make a home, home, home for everyone. Come on, let's make a home, home, home for everyone. Let's make a home, 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 let's make a home. Yeah, let's make a home.
All right, Jackie, Lars, y'all come over here, man.
Air five.
Good job.
Oh, come on.
Well, remember, this isn't everything. Thank you all so much for being here today, and the breakouts start tomorrow.
We also have the closing plenary next week on Thursday, May 27th at 4 p.m. You don't want to miss that.
Yeah.
It's been great to spend the day with you all today.
Thanks everybody for coming out. Peace and love.
Yeah, come on back. Takes a lot of people to make an awesome show. Thanks to these folks behind the camera.
Give you freedom, give you fire, give you reason, take you higher. See the champions take the field now. Unify us, make us feel proud. In the streets, our heads are lifting as we lose our inhibition. Celebration, it surrounds us. Every nation, all around us. Sing forever young, singing songs underneath.